Bulls Nation, today we continue the discussion of some of our free agency targets. And ladies and gentlemen, the point guard position is still a very big important topic to discuss. And one of the last players that I probably will discuss in relation to those free agency targets in the point guard position is Goran Dragić, a player that played for the Miami Heat, has been embedded in that Miami Heat culture. But at the end of the day, is that someone that we can bring into the Chicago Bulls and see if he could make a pretty big impact for our team? We have a lot to discuss in relation to this, so let's get started and let's talk about Goran Dragić in this video. Let's do it. What's up everybody, it's the Aidan Sports Show and welcome back to another video. Today we've got a Chicago Bulls related video and this one's referring to Goran Dragić, a player that in the end has done a lot of things in his NBA career. He's become a very good player throughout the entirety of his career. He's played a lot of games and ladies and gentlemen, this could be an experienced player to come into this team and maybe make an impact, whether it's starting or off of the bench. But before we get started, please like and subscribe to the Aidan Sports Show YouTube channel, turn notifications on, and let me know in the comments below your thoughts about Goran Dragić and if he is a viable option for the Chicago Bulls at this point in time. Goran Dragić could be an option for us, and it could be a realistic option at the end of the day. I know many people might not want to see that or say that, but at the end of the day, if none of our targets that we're really going for, like Alonzo, which we all know that we're trying to get, or even any other point guard in free agency we don't go for, if Goran Dragić is available, I can truly see the Chicago Bulls sweeping him up for a year or two and see if we can get another point guard in a few years' time. That's a realistic option in my opinion for the Chicago Bulls. His averages this season, he played 50 games in the NBA season. He averaged 13.4 points per game, 3.4 rebounds per game, 4.4 assists per game, shooting 43.2% from the field, 37% from the three-point line. He's had a decent year. At the end of the day, a lot of his career points have been very similar. He's played for a bunch of teams throughout the course of his entirety of his NBA season, and recently has become a Miami Heat. And I feel like he is destined to remain in Miami Heat, but we'll get to that a little bit later. What would Goran Dragić bring to this team? He's a veteran point guard. We don't have a veteran point guard in this team. We have Kobe White, who still can be a very good point guard in this league. We have Satoransky, who is an experienced point guard, but his experience has not really been at the NBA level. He's only been in the NBA now for I think 3 or 4 years. So Goran Dragić brings a lot of experience in the NBA, and that's obviously going to be a key contributor to bringing him in. He's going to come in for some veteran leadership. He's going to come in to hopefully maybe slow this team down a little bit, not always run, not always force the turnover and stuff like that. He's going to come in. He's going to be a good option scoring wise. He can facilitate as well. His total in general averages is 4.8 assists, which isn't bad. So he can do all those things, and again, he'll provide that veteran leadership. However, is that what we're really in need for at the end of the day? In terms of Goran Dragić, there are, as I said, positives and negatives. He can be a combo guard for us. He's 6'3". He's 35 years old. That's probably the big thing here. He won't be expensive to get in my opinion, but at the end of the day, I don't feel like that's exactly what's going to happen. So there's going to be a real interesting concept there with Goran Dragić. In my opinion, for the Chicago Bulls, this is an option, definitely, but this is not the first option. Like I said before, if the Chicago Bulls are pursuing Lonzo Ball, if the Chicago Bulls are pursuing players like DeJounte Murray, maybe even a Marcus Smart in a trade, or if we're going for players like Derrick Rose, it may be, if the unlikely chance we get Chris Paul, whatever the case may be, whichever other point guards we're really truly going after, I would see them as probably a viable option compared to Goran Dragić. And the reason why is, I've mentioned with other point guards at his age, like Chris Paul. Chris Paul is an elite level point guard even at his age at 36, I believe, or 35. And there's a key difference between Chris Paul and Goran Dragić. Goran Dragić, in my opinion, is still a good player. He's still performing at a good level in the NBA. He's doing a lot of it as a starter and as a bench player for the Miami Heat. And at the end of the day, he's still a great player. He can do well for the Chicago Bulls. I think he could take us into the NBA playoffs. He'll make us a better team. But it's just not long-term enough for me if we're not going to get an all-star level point guard. As I said before, if we get an all-star level point guard like a Chris Paul, I would much prefer that over Goran Dragić, who is going to be in a very similar situation as not necessarily a long-term option, but he's not really that all-star level point guard anymore. So that's probably the reason why I would stay away from Goran Dragić. But as I mentioned before, if there are no other targets in the NBA trade period, draft, free agency, and if we're trying to go for a player like Dennis Schroeder or something like that will ask for a lot of money and won't fit our needs, I would prefer Goran Dragić. But at the end of the day, we have to have a lot of things not go our way, in my opinion, to see Goran Dragić as a viable option. But here's something to mention. Goran Dragić might not be the only point guard that we bring in. If we bring in Goran Dragić with another point guard in the offseason, let's say we get Lonzo Ball and we get Goran Dragić, and we truly decide to go with Kobe White as the shooting guard of the Chicago Bulls, backup shooting guard, starting shooting guard, whatever the case may be, whatever the situation is. Let's just say we truly go all in on Kobe White as a shooting guard, and we bring two point guards in. Goran Dragić would be perfect in that role. Someone that comes in off the bench as a veteran point guard, can do the right things, make the right shots, be extremely talented. He destroyed us in one of the games that we played this year. He absolutely violated us within one quarter. So to say that he doesn't have the game anymore, it's just incorrect. We've seen it throughout the course of many games with the Miami Heat. Goran Dragić is still a great player. So I would very much like to see the Chicago Bulls go after Goran Dragić, but I wouldn't want to see him alone as a Chicago Bull. We brought in Lonzo Ball that can come in and start for the multiple long-term years that we can have with him, with Goran Dragić as the bench option, someone that can nurture maybe Lonzo Ball, nurture Kobe White, nurture even Patrick Williams, and help these guys learn, as well as help them take the next step, winning mentality, going into the playoffs every single year. That's what Goran Dragic's role would be on this team, and I would absolutely love that. So would I take Goran Dragić on this team? Yes. But I would really like to think that this wouldn't be the only guard we would go after. At the end of the day, that's a scenario that I brought to you. If Goran Dragić is not the only point guard that we bring into this team, I would love Goran Dragić. If he's the only point guard we're going to have, if we can only pick one point guard, I would probably stay away from Goran Dragić. That's my personal opinion. And to ask what I believe will happen, he's been embedded in that Miami Heat culture, and we've seen it throughout the course of a lot of people with the Miami Heat. It's very hard to leave the Miami Heat once you join their team. They have a different style, they have a different culture, and they have a great way of welcoming players into their team, both fan base and, of course, their own team, the players within the team, the franchise itself, the management team, everything. They may have made a few mistakes over the course of their history. That's very well documented, and so have a lot of teams as well. But the Miami Heat seem to embed players into their team and into their culture very, very well. Go and ask Jimmy Butler that question. Jimmy Butler has fit right into the Miami Heat culture. And at the end of the day, Goran Dragić has done the same. The Miami Heat love Goran Dragić. Goran Dragić loves the Miami Heat. I'm pretty sure I have heard him say one way or another that he doesn't want to leave the Miami Heat. He wants to retire as a Miami Heat. So unless the Miami Heat are just done with him, I don't see him leaving. I think his first option is to stay with the Miami Heat. I think that's the good option for him as well. At the end of the day, he will help their team get to the goals that they need to get to. He still can do it for them. He might not be a terrific starter. I would still say the Miami Heat probably need a better point guard, despite none. And maybe they do need a better point guard, but Goran Dragić can still do it for them off the bench. And I'm excited to see what can happen with that. And we're going to leave it here, ladies and gentlemen. This is probably one of the last targets that I will talk about. The draft is a week away, so if we're going to make any moves in the NBA draft, that's something that we need to consider. If we're going to make any moves in relation to free agency, I believe that starts in 10 days, 11 days. So we have a lot to do there. We're going to be knowing what our team is going to be about very, very, very soon. So stay tuned. I will try to move away from the point guard position in the remaining videos that we have left for free agency. I will try to talk more about forwards and maybe even centers. We will see what happens in about that retrospect. But there's probably not going to be too many of those unless you have a really good option that I just haven't talked about yet. I think that's going to be one of the last videos I talk about in relation to free agency. So thank you guys for watching this video. Please like and subscribe if you're new. Have a wonderful and safe day, Bulls Nation. I'll see you in another Chicago Bulls video. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay tuned for more. Take care.